So what would have been the job maybe you most regret, or that broke your heart, that was the most difficult to leave maybe?
I was living in a little town in Texas called Weatherford, Texas. It was an oil town where actually it was not an oil town. It housed an oil company that my wife's family owned, and they had several companies around the United States, but it was centered there in Weatherford. And so I sort of figured, well, this was going to be a life job and working from the bottom up type of thing. So I started working there, but then along came an offer to go over to Fort Worth and commute to Fort Worth, 26 miles each way. And it was working for Convair, which later turned into General Dynamics. Mm-hmm. They produce airplanes.
Yep.
Excuse me. At that time, they were building the B-36, mm-hmm. which is a monstrous airplane. They really didn't go very much anywhere, but they were producing them, spending a lot of money and doing it. And I was hired as why I was hired for this job, I think it was because I'd had experience in electronics, mm-hmm. Which called for a certain type of discipline, and being able to read plans and stuff like that. So I got hired as a material release analyst, which really was in the subcontracts department of the B-36 program at Convair. And that required me to keep up with the scheduling of subcontracted parts that were shipped in to be built into the B-36 plane itself. So that was a rather demanding job, but extremely interesting. And the demands were more involved in being able to meet with people, maintain a balance with them under pressure, because we were dealing with military stuff, right. And because these people were working on very tight schedules, their production schedules, shipping schedules, all of that type of stuff. So it was extremely demanding, but very rewarding because you met so many wonderful people. And you had the wherewithal and the right to walk around and make sure that all of the parts were being delivered in the proper place at the proper time during the construction of the planes. And you got to talk to the people who were putting the planes together. So you got to know them. You got to know some of the pilots that would come in and be anticipating flying these things. The managers that handled the various departments. So it was I guess my early CEO job helped me a lot there too. It was carried over, and I just loved that job. It was a great job. But the one thing about working in the aircraft industry, it's a given that contracts are let out and they are taken away. And sometimes there are huge layoffs.
Oh, right.
You know, in Fort Worth, when they canceled the B-36 program, they laid off 17,000 people at one time. Well, besides being a parent.
Yeah. And that may be one of your most important jobs. How many kids do you have, Chuck?
I have 7 sons and a daughter. So I was busy, parent-wise.
Yeah. Yes.
And they came spread over the years. I had 4 stair-step boys
Uh-huh.
every 2 years. And then there was a 13-year hiatus, and I had another boy, and then another 13 years. And in the interim there, somewhere in the 13 years, I had a girl through my second wife, Barbara. And then I had the twins, or Barbara and I had twin boys.
Right.
And Barbara had brought with her daughter, and she was only 2 when we got together. So ostensibly, she was my daughter too.
Absolutely.
Over a period of time.